We're honored to be back with Robert Amsterdam. He is the attorney in London for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Robert, thank you for taking some of your time again. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
So I contacted you because I saw some video images of a infiltration, I should say, into one of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church facilities where they pretended to be invalids. And then once they got in, they attacked and beat the priests. And this was obviously some kind of quasi-government sponsored entity that did this. What say you?
Yeah, it's actually the government.
Mm-hmm.
As I've said before on your show, and only your show and that of Tucker Carlson, because nobody in the press is covering this, because it turns out President Zelensky's a thug.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's doing is he's trying to replace a 1,000-year-old church with a 5-year-old church
Mm-hmm.
that's backed by his nationalist neo-Nazis in the western part of Ukraine. And shockingly, there are no holds barred. They use guys who look like they should be at the front, many of them with swastikas on their arms. They break into churches. They beat up parishioners. They steal the physical churches, over 1,500 stolen. They turn the churches into museums or relics. It's absolutely out of a terrible page of history.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this is a nationalist element that I think is controlling Zelensky. And we did some reporting last week that he can't really, I guess, make any progress in bringing peace to Ukraine because the nationalists would take him out. Do you know anything about that? Or, I mean,
well,
that's not your focus, but.
Look, I don't know whether it's just the nationalists,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's also the fact that he's surrounded with a bunch of people, maybe including himself, who are wildly corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's stopping anything meaningful in terms of these discussions. As you know, Todd, we are solely dedicated to trying to save this church. And we're obviously not doing a great job since they've literally stripped the citizenship away from the leader of the church, and they're breaking into these institutions day by day, and there's nothing. There appears to be nothing the West wants to do other than fund the killing,
Yes.
And the fact that guys that appear to be of military age are deployed against Christians rather than Russians it just blows my mind. And Western reporters don't want to report on it because a lot of them have TV and movie deals that make Zelensky look like a demigod, and they just don't want to tell the truth. And then you get journalists who write for the Washington Post, who are so far up the we'll leave it at that. They're so close to the Ukrainian government that they just essentially lie every time they write a report. The reality on the ground in Ukraine is incredibly different than what you actually read in Western newspapers.
Well, I believe it's Metropolitan, and I may butcher this name, Anufri, who
That's right.
who had his citizenship removed, and it was due to, in the past, he, I guess, had Russian citizenship, but he denounced it and basically wanted to rebuild the church inside Ukraine. And that's known by the government, but they took his citizenship away anyway.
Well, let's be really clear.
Yeah.
The Russian citizenship is a fallacy.
Mm.
He was born in Ukraine in 1944.
Mm-hmm.
In the 70s, he was part of the Soviet Union, as Ukraine was.
Right.
There were only 3 seminaries. They were all in the Soviet Union. He went to a seminary in the Soviet Union. He then came back to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, when the war started, he didn't flee. He went right back to Kiev, blessed the troops, expressed his solidarity with the Ukrainian people. We're just releasing a video, by the way, on SaveTheUOC.com. It'll be out tomorrow. That sets all of this out. The truth of the matter is, Zelensky, who was perhaps the #1 Russian-speaking comic, he has many more current ties to Russia than Metropolitan Onufried. Nobody's stripping him of his citizenship.
Yeah. This seems like, to me, an attack on Christianity, which I think you've mentioned before. I mean, and it's being run by the U.S. government, which is really disturbing.
Well, I tell you, this has been set in place since 2014, and it's ongoing. There are, I think, factions within the U.S. government that are continuing this hatred towards this church, because the other church, the OCU, is a construct of the State Department, as I've said on your show before. So there's a feeling of ownership, I think, concerning the religious issue, because the United States and a guy named Zelensky, who runs their religious studies, religious control group inside the presidential administration, they believe in the securitization of religion. In other words, it's not about praying. It's about making religion a part of your foreign policy and controlling your people's faith. Very scary thing. It's very Soviet, and it's absolutely the idea of this guy Zelensky, who's actually written a paper on that.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you.
And Zelensky, who Zelensky has put in charge of religion, has also written a notoriously anti-Semitic book on Zionism from the 1980s. This is the guy that Zelensky has chosen to destroy the church.
Wow. So what else is going on the ground that you're seeing that is disturbing, or things you want people to know about? Priests
being taken to the front. As you know, people in Ukraine now are being rounded up and thrown into vans and finding themselves driven to the front in sort of a chain gang type of approach. And amongst those are political opponents and priests. So all of this terrible stuff you hear about Russia is happening in Ukraine. You just can change the language from the FSB to the SBU. And, you know, when we have criminal charges filed, as we have against many priests and many religious figures, the charges all come from the old Soviet criminal textbooks involving sort of mental or psychological crimes. It's really quite frightening to see how the Ukrainians have essentially stolen some of the worst ideas of Russian criminal practice or Soviet criminal practice and used it against their own people.
Well, they were trained that way, obviously. And it's very similar to what's going on in China with the Chinese Communist Party. They have a Christian church, which is state-sponsored, which, you know, controls the message and all of that. That's essentially what Ukraine is doing, right?
Well, through the OCU, that's right. And in fact, rather than some of the older saints that are put in icons, they actually have icons relating to the Maidan revolution. I mean, one of my lawyers was just in Ukraine. As you know, I can't travel there because they've opened up a bogus criminal investigation against me. So, he was reporting to us about just the continuing outrageous situation. He met with the lawyers for a metropolitan who is gravely ill, kept in horrific conditions in jail, and this religious leader's crime was to complain to his parish about a roadblock that had been set up to stop people from coming to a religious event. And they've charged this poor man with spying. I mean, really, you could not make this up.
Well, I've asked you this before, but are you getting any relief from the Trump administration at all on this issue?
Well, as you know, then Senator Vance is the only person with courage at the time to speak out on behalf of the church. So we've never asked for any interference in terms of funding or anything else. All we've ever asked for is people to call the Ukrainians to stop this witch hunt, this horrific crime against humanity that's going on against Christians. And I would say this: I think the Trump administration has people in charge that at least listen. As you may have seen, one or two congressmen have deplored this attack on the church publicly.
Yes.
Recently, I think Congressperson Luna has made a statement, but it just shocks me how quiet legislators are with respect to an attack on Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, I think Luna is Jewish as well, so that's very interesting. At least she's standing up for what is right. Anything else you want to get out?
No, I mean, it's just an unparalleled tragedy, and you just see nothing of it in the press. Yeah. I mean, as you know, His Holiness the Pope spoke out against it. The Church of England spoke out against it, but we've just given such a free pass to Zelensky. He's got so much impunity that it's just completely outrageous.
Robert, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you carving a little bit out for us, and we'll have you back as things develop.
Thank you so much for having us.
Take care.
All the best.